Hi everyone. Today I'm going to tell you about the day that I mentally overcame the symptoms of ankylosing spondylitis. And this day was the most pivotal transition in my healing process. It was last December, it was 2014, and I was tracking down a package that my girlfriend had sent me for Christmas, and it had gotten lost in the mail. And that's kind of an annoying thing to deal with anyway. But this day I was in the middle of a bad flare-up, and my left foot and ankle were so swollen and so painful that to just walk took a ton of energy, and I could still barely do it. My hips were also affected that day, as well as my spine, and my neck was very stiff and painful, and I had pretty bad headaches as well. So I left the house, and I got in my little pickup to drive just a couple miles away. And it hurt so bad to push the clutch in with my left foot in my car that I was literally hyperventilating just to stay calm, just to stay on the road. And when I got to the post office, I had a parking spot right out front, and it took me 20 minutes to muster up the mental courage to put myself through the amount of pain it was going to take to walk the short distance into the post office and pick up that package. And when I walked in there, I looked around, and of course it's the post office. There's a huge line, and so I stood in the line, and I remember looking around the room and looking at the boredom on other people's faces. You know, they're on their smartphones, or they're looking around, and they're kind of upset because no one really wants to be in that line, and I understand that for sure. But there was something so interesting, because in the past I would have seen them and been angry at them, and in my head been like, you have no idea how much pain I'm in here just to do this, and you get to walk out of here and go for a hike, and I'm gonna go home and barely be able to feed myself. Yet on this day, despite this pain, and despite these people around me, and despite tracking down this package, which was kind of a burden or whatever, I had been a student of the mind-body connection for quite some time at that point, about 2 months. And on this day, I was so present and so mindful that any negative thoughts that came into my head, I didn't accept them. They were coming in quickly, of course, yet my level of awareness about those thoughts had separated me from those thoughts, where I could almost watch them come in, and if I didn't like it, or if I realized that that was a negative thought that didn't serve me, I would let it go. And I was finally getting it. I was finally getting how I had actually been feeding ankylosing spondylitis for like 4 years. And on this day, despite that pain, I did not accept a negative thought about myself, my situation, my body, any of that. My quality of thoughts remained high. And I remember standing there and holding onto the counter and barely making it out of there. I mean, I was so at the threshold of total physical and mental collapse to the floor. I mean, I was so close to falling to the ground and just crying. And no one knew it. And it wasn't like I was in some heavy form of denial about the disease, which I had done in the past, and that didn't help. This was a level of mindfulness that genuinely and authentically kept me focused on healthy thoughts and a healthy path. And I walked out of there. I didn't even get the package. It was lost again. They didn't have it. And I walked out of there. And then I walked into my coach's office the next day. And if any of you are sort of on the fence about investing in your health and hiring a coach to help you through this, I'll tell you right now, I don't know where I'd be without it. I'm scared to think about it. But I remember walking into Peter Winslow's office the next morning, and I felt a shift in my body. It gives me goosebumps right now. I woke up the next day and I hadn't fed the disease. I had not given it the negativity that it needs, the dis-ease. Despite the pain, I stayed at a high level of ease. And I, in a way, began starving out the disease, and I could feel it. I remember looking at Peter, excited yet still in a lot of pain. This wasn't like I overcame the symptoms overnight. It was still a couple months till I started limiting my medication, but the next day I looked at him face to face, eye to eye, and spoke with him heart to heart, and I remember saying, "Peter, I overcame the symptoms of AS yesterday." I could feel it. It was so powerful in my body that no one could have convinced me otherwise. There was an entire shift. And from that day on, AS never beat me again. I never had the warrior attitude of resistance, of willing my way through it and being angry at it and using that anger as fuel to take a couple more steps before I collapse. It was a peaceful route of maintaining peace and ease in my body. For those of you that are students of the mind-body connection, you'll understand a lot of lessons in what I just said, and it's so interesting because it's not that it's easy to do, but it's actually a very simple thing. Don't feed your disease with anger and negativity. If anything, feed it love, which is very counterintuitive, I know. But from this moment on, my body followed my mind. And I grew up an athlete, and that is something that athletes just know, same with a lot of other people in the world, that the body follows the mind. I mean, I remember learning about that when I was this tall playing soccer with my friends, and our coaches would tell us, if you are convinced, if you believe that you are a good player, if you believe you're fast enough, if you believe you can score the goal, then that level of consciousness, that level of thought and belief will come through in the game, right? The game of life. It comes through in many ways. And so that is the pivotal transition day. And from then on, my body followed. I started limiting my medication, and I have, at this point, completely overcome the symptoms of AS. I feel that I'm free and clear, and I have a life and a health renewed. So here's to you, here's to your health and better days ahead. Thank you.